Good evening, everyone. Here we are again. Here are the lashes, as promised. They look ridiculous in real life, but on camera, my goodness, they look very cool. I'm very vampiric, and I'm very, very pleased with myself because this is one of my favourite shirts, and it's very cold here in Tasmania at the moment, so I've not had the opportunity to wear it. I also don't get the opportunity to get dressed up like this very often, and I love it. So thank you. We'll get on with the tropes now. We talked about, I think about maybe 5 last time. It turns out that I ramble rather a lot, so it took 20 minutes for me to talk about those 5. I'm going to try and talk about 7 more tonight. I do have another 6 planned for part 3, which may or may not be done tonight. We'll see. It would be a shame to waste all this effort. It took me about, a good half hour to get this done. This is the first time I've ever worn false lashes, and perhaps the second time I've ever worn eyeliner, so that was an interesting experience, and well, maybe I'll have to try it again, but probably only on camera, not in real life. I'm too worried that they'll take off in a wind if I go outside. So tonight we're going to talk about a lot of things that were suggested on Twitter and some on Facebook. We had a suggestion from Kari Crawford for Noona romance, which is something I love to talk about because it's not a thing in much of Western media. Evil twin, which I thought was evil twin but is actually evil twins in the plural, so I'm going to talk about both of those. We're going to talk about Insta-love / attraction, women in fridges, betrayal, and action families plus in love and oblivious to the one in love, because these are some of my favourites. They're in no particular order, just in the order that I found them, so we'll just go with that, I suppose. So we'll start with Noona romance. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Noona romance is romance between an older female and a younger male. You don't see it a lot in Western media. Like I said, I can think offhand of only one movie or TV show that actually has this trope in it, and as such in Western media it's kind of not a trope so much as a subversion of a trope, which is of course the older male and the younger female. It is, however, extremely prevalent in Asian media, particularly in K-dramas. I've seen it a lot. I've seen it occasionally in Japanese dramas as well. Honestly, I don't watch a lot of Japanese stuff because I find it doesn't align very well with my particular tastes. But the one I'm thinking of in particular is called Kimi wa Peto, and it is wonderful. I love it so much. It's one of my favourite things ever, and it is a Noona romance. So the reason I love this so much, and I do love this trope when it's well done. When it's not well done, not so much, but I'll explain that later. The reason I love it so much is it brings a power rebalance into the relationship between the male and female leads. In your general romance, in general, and going by generalized terms, you will usually find that the male has much of the power. As Mr. Tilney says, the man has the power of choice and the female only the power of refusal, which is not exactly correct, but it does serve as a very general guideline for how a lot of romances play out. It is natural enough because in general males are more outgoing and more inclined to hunt and seek, so to speak, whereas females are less inclined to do that. Depending on the female, and speaking again in generalizations, that's often how it works. And quite often, especially for women who have escaped from abusive situations or who have seen a lot of abusive situations, the power rebalance that you get in a Noona romance is really, really refreshing, because you go from it being the male being the one in charge and having the higher status in terms of age and perhaps situation in life, to it being the woman. So that leaves your male lead free to be sweet and caring and loving and kind and single-minded in the way that he pursues the female lead if he's the one doing the pursuing. It also leaves the female agency some more than just a little bit of power of refusal, but the power to actually direct how the romance will go, or even if she wants a romance to happen, because she's had more experience. She knows how things work. She knows how quite often the male mind, or in general a male suitor, will act and react. She's also usually well aware of her own mind, what she wants from life. She's usually quite confident and set in her ways as such. So it gives you that freedom that I think a lot of women feel like they lack, and a lot of women in fiction do seem to me to lack, of agency, of being a person outside of romance, being able to be a person in your own right instead of having to find your personhood in the couple or in the romance, which again is a big part of why it appeals to me. It did not appeal to me at the start. When I first saw it in K-dramas, my thoughts were, this is very, very weird and I'm not sure I like this at all. But it grew on me, and through my own experiences as well, I find that when it's done well, I really enjoy these kind of romances. It gives you that feeling of safety, that you can put the brakes on things whenever you want to, because not necessarily that you're the one in power or that the female lead is the one in power, but she has more of a balance with the male because she has that previous experience. There is a thing that K-drama often does with this trope that I really dislike. They will take this trope of the younger man and the older female, and they'll turn him into your typical alpha male, just not really a very pleasant person, either just a really rich dude and very aware of his own self-importance, or he will just be extremely confident because he's good looking, or whatever it may be. They strip away that power rebalance, still make him the alpha and the lead and the one directing all the shots, and thereby they take away all the goodness that this subversion of a trope presents. So they present it as being a subversion of the Noona romance trope, but in actuality you can't do that, because the Noona romance trope is in fact a subversion of a well-known trope, which is older male, younger female, grumpy, sunshine. So it's already a subversion. So if you try and subvert it again, especially if you do it like this, for me, it completely doesn't hit. It fails. I hate it. I will rage quit, because basically all I can see is a little twerp who is trying to get the attention of a much more sensible older female. And for some reason, because the writers have decided that it should be so, she's giving him the time of day. He doesn't deserve the time of day. He's basically a kid. For Noona romance to work, the male has to be seen as actually somebody worth having, somebody worth going through the very real social stigma of an older female pursuing or accepting a younger male. He has to be worth that. And if he's not worth that, if he's just a little jumped up twerp, then your whole premise falls apart. And for me, it no longer works. It no longer makes sense. So that's it for Noona romance. One of my favourite tropes these days. Did not used to like it. But again, everything that is a good trope that I enjoy can be ruined by bad handling. So please, writers, don't do that. Please don't do it. Write them all for me. They're in K-dramas and that makes me happy, but also I would like to see more of them in Western media as well. It's why I've done a couple of them in my own books now. In general, I've had very much more skewed to the older male, younger female. But in things like Lady of Weeds, Lady of Dreams has a small cameo of that kind as well, but Lady of Weeds is the really big one that I've done that with, and I'll probably do it a few more times as well. We'll talk about the opposite of that, the much older male with younger female, in part 3, because we're going to consider how the older male being an ancient paranormal being complicates matters and whether that's problematic or not. In the meantime, we're going to go on to Evil Twins, that was suggested by Moon Kent on, I think, Instagram. Now, first, like I said earlier, when I saw this, I thought it said Evil Twin, and I got really, really excited because the Evil Twin comes in and takes over is actually legitimately a real favourite of mine. I enjoy it so much. And I thought I was going to get to talk about that. And since I was disappointed, we are in fact going to talk about it. But first we'll talk very briefly about Evil Twins. I do see it more in movies than in books. It's a definite trope, especially when it comes to horror. I'm not a huge fan of it. I feel like twins shouldn't be demonized like that. But maybe that's just because I don't know many twins. Maybe there are some really horrible twins out there. As it is, not a favourite trope, but I can see why it's a staple of horror, because there's that uncanny valley effect, right? Where something is pretty and beautiful but not quite right. And that happens and works really well with twins, so I can understand it. But my actual favourite that I actually thought we were talking about at first is, of course, evil twin comes in and takes over good twin's life because good twin has gotten into some sort of trouble, or perhaps is dead, and somebody needs to come in and take over. I do actually see another version of that, like in the K-drama Mask, where someone comes in and takes over for their lookalike, but she's the good guy and the girl who is dead was the bad guy, which is fine and it's lovely, and for that drama I love it. But my favourite version of it is when the evil twin comes in, takes over good twin's life, and my reason for it comes straight back to that grumpy with sunshine, because then you get a fun, lovable male lead to balance out the either evilness or just plain grumpiness of the evil twin. Well, I'm thinking in terms of being a female lead here who comes in and takes over her female twin's place, because I'm a female. Maybe I just always think that we're the main lead. We'll go with that anyway. I love this trope because, again, it's that grumpy and sunshine that you can mix up together. It also gives your main lead a chance to go from being not so nice of a person into a nice person, but it also gives the added joy of being able to watch machinations. It also gives the added joy of being able to be as ruthless as you want to be, because your protagonist is supposed to be evil, so they can use more deadly, potentially awful machinations to get what they want to get. And slowly you can see them changing from that, but it means you can be so much more ruthless with what you can do and what your plot will allow. It is such fun to write. I don't know if it's as much fun to watch. I very much enjoyed the bits and pieces I saw of Revenge, perhaps because I saw it as a Monte Cristo but with a female lead, and that really appealed to me. But it does give you that certain ruthlessness, and I like to be able to do a ruthless character every now and then. It's a lot of fun for me. So that's it for Evil Twin, Evil Twins. Love it. It's one of my favourite things. Evil Twins in the plural, not so much, but that's okay. It's a staple of the horror genre, so they can keep it. I don't need it. Now we're going to go on to Insta-love / attraction. Insta-love is a thing I do not love. I find it irritating, and also no, it's believable. I won't say it's unbelievable. It's extremely believable. Not everybody, but a lot of people will fall in love at first sight, at least into attraction at first sight. I don't think it's a particularly healthy thing. I don't think it's something that should be in books that often. It's an overused trope. I really don't love it because it gives no room for character development. It gives no reason for me to fall in love with the second lead, like the male or female lead, because all I see is that they're very attractive, which is, that's fine, but what are they like as a person? Would they be good in a fight? Can you rely on them to have your back in the food hall if there's a food fight? These are important things. You can't just trust somebody who's good looking because they're going to be under the table hiding their face so they don't get hit with a pie. That's what happens. They're boring. So, Insta attraction, understand it. That's fine. It can provide some fun elements, and let's be honest, most people, when they meet someone else that they're considering as not even a partner, but as somebody to go out with, looks are the first thing you can see, and it is definitely possible to be attracted at first sight. I just don't think that Insta-love is the greatest way of doing things. I don't think it's healthy for young girls and boys to see as something that's normal. I don't think it's healthy to be encouraging. I think it's more important that we should be teaching people to consider people based on their merit. So It's a trope, sure. Not my favourite trope, not the healthiest of tropes, but I do know a lot of people who believe in love at first sight. I'm not one of them. I don't believe in love at first sight. I believe in attraction at first sight and the variants that go with it. I think sometimes people are very lucky that the person that they fall in love with at first sight actually ends up being the person they marry. But I think that's more by either good luck, good providence, or that sort of thing than good management. I don't think that's actually a thing. So much for Insta-love and attraction. Not my favourite, so I'm not going to say much about it. We're going to go on to women in fridges, which is very much a not favourite trope of mine, which I guess if you've read my books, you'll probably already have realised that. I would like to say at the start, and this one came from Pilgrim Hill. Pilgrim Hill asked me to talk about women in fridges. By the way, Insta-love and attraction was Winterlark. Sorry, Winterlark, I forgot to announce you. So Pilgrim Hill wanted to know about women in fridges. So first of all, I want to say, and please don't come for me, but this is a valid trope. I don't mean it's valid in terms that it exists. I mean it's valid in that it is actually a legitimate and understandable storyline. The problem comes with it that in movies of this kind, especially since they're so prolific, in the action genre especially, I love action movies. I watch a lot of them. Unfortunately, I can't rewatch a lot of them because they're fluff. They are fluff for blokes. I'm sorry if you're a bloke and you don't like that, but when you watch an action movie, you're watching fluff. You're basically watching the equivalent of romantic fantasy that you look down on women for watching. It's fluff. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. I love it. I love watching people get beaten up on the movie screen. I really enjoy a well choreographed action scene. It's one of my favorite things. It is why it is my brainless fluff. When I feel bad, when I feel sad, I watch an action movie. I did that recently with Bloodshot because I was feeling horrible. And I was extremely taken aback because it was actually a thoughtful, well-written and amazing movie. Who would have expected it? Vin Diesel was leading up the whole cast, and I expected just to be there for beating people up with a slightly science fiction edge to it. No, I got a really clever, really well-made movie with a great storyline and some very unexpected twists that it took me at least half the movie to start to get. So yeah, I'm looking at you, Bloodshot. You're great. You're a unicorn, as is Reds 1 and 2. But women in fridges is a very common thing there. If you don't know what it is, women in fridges is when your main female personage in the book or in the movie is dead, but not only is dead or dies on screen on page, but is caused to die, to be murdered, specifically to jolt the main male character into some sort of action, into the story itself. Like I said, it's valid because some stories are about that. They're about a man taking revenge or finding his daughter or doing those things that are very boosting to the male ego and enjoyable quite often for others to watch as well, because you feel like, this is a story for me, for rescuing. The problem with it is that unless it's done very, very well, I find that these types of stories tend to treat their female characters in exactly the same way, which is as expendable as things. They're not here as people, they're here specifically to move the plot along, and once you've done that, you've stopped them being characters, you've stopped them being people in their own right. They're just things and devices, and that, my friends, is sloppy writing. Please don't do it. Please stop doing it. I want to watch more good action movies. I love them so much. Please don't do that. I do forgive it in some, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to watch action movies, and I love action movies. So what are you going to do? I just want to say, can we please have more action movies that are not women being fridged for the convenience of the plot to spur the male into action? Can't we have more Hawkeyes to go around and do the actiony bits and be very powerful and cool and just awesome, and then come home to his wife, who is also very cool and awesome because she's looking after 4 children? Can we have more of that? That would be wonderful. Thus ends my rant on women in fridges. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm already at 19 minutes and I still have 3 things to talk about, all of which I intend to talk at some length about. Actually, not too much. We've got Betrayal next up by Ella016. Betrayal for me is not something I actually enjoy writing. I enjoy reading it more than writing, though I do like to see it set up and be able to guess at it coming. I think for me, Betrayal at its root is probably a deconstruction of love. So you've built up the love and the trust in this character. You've gotten to like them on an emotional level, as has the main character. Otherwise it wouldn't be a betrayal. If it's something you see coming a mile off, if it's somebody who wasn't even important to the main character, I don't think you can truly call it. And it is a betrayal, but it's not a betrayal storyline / trope. It's just something that happens. So for me, for it to be a true betrayal trope or storyline, there has to be that deconstruction of love that hurts every single step of the way, whether there's forgiveness at the end of the road or whether there is no forgiveness. It's that deconstruction that is the important point and the thing that provides all the forward momentum further along the road. So much for Betrayal. I won't say too much more about it because I don't want to spear people's hearts any more than they've been speared at this point. I am so sorry. So we'll go on to action families. Anna E22 talked about this one. She suggested the Weasleys and the Incredibles. Okay, I love this trope. There's also No Ordinary Family, and there's a few others. I love the fact that neither the mother nor the father had to die, neither of them are idiots, and the children are well provided for and well prepared for, but something so completely out of the ordinary has happened that even though they have all of those specific supports, there's still a huge amount of conflict. And also superpowers. I love superpowers, guys. They're so much fun. So this is actually a trope I love. I would love to see more of it represented in fiction. In books as well as in movies, I don't feel like we get to see it enough, and I want to see it more. I love having your healthy families dealing with extraordinary problems, which is exactly what this is. I love to see good families dealing with stuff together. There are two different types of storylines in terms of plot movement. One of them is where the main character stays the same and the world changes around them and they get all the external pressure, and the other where everything changes on the inside, whereas the world may stay much the same because all the pressure is internal. And in these cases, it gives you leave to show good examples and have great family dynamics and have all the pressure come from the outside to bear on the family while they deal with it from the inside. So it's a trope I love. I want to see more of it. Can we have more action families? By the way, the Weasleys are my favourite family. I fell in love with Fred and George. I will always be in love with Fred and George. They're my favourites. That will never change. And every part of the Weasley family I adore. I think they're wonderful, and yeah, I would love to have breakfast in their house sometime just to see what it would be like. And also I wouldn't have to talk. I could just enjoy watching the madness, which makes me exceedingly happy. I love to do that. I'm an introvert. You guys know that. This is my favourite way of being. Okay, finally, we're going to move on to the one that I want to talk about the most apart from Noona romance, and that is the one person being in love, the other person being oblivious, or in love / oblivious. This one is from Anna E22 as well. You will, if you have read any of my books, you will probably have noticed that there are a few of my characters that are like this. It is a trope I actually really, really enjoy, and I have so many people emailing me. I have so many people emailing me anyway, and some of them are quite rude, especially about this thing. They say to me, "It is so unbelievable how your main female character could not see that this was happening. Can you please stop doing this?" And to those people, I would like to say, I once went on a date that I didn't know was a date. So please, no, it is not unbelievable. This sort of thing happens, and it happens to me. I know this, I have experience. It definitely happens, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person it has happened to. In my defense, this is this a defense? It's a character flaw, guys. This is a character flaw of mine. I am actually really good at reading people. I am really good at reading undertones. Apparently this is part of being an INFJ. Who knew? I didn't even know I was one until a couple of years ago, and then so many things made sense. I thought I was just weird and nuts. Turns out my brain just works in a certain way, and now that I know what it is, it's very useful. But because of that, I can usually read people very extremely well. So this leads to a couple of different scenarios. The first of them is that someone is keen on me and I see it and I hate it and I run away. This is with people that I'm not attracted to, obviously. Their presence becomes an unutterable torment to me because every time they edge over and stand closer, I know exactly what they're doing. Every time they push themselves into a conversation with me, I know what they're doing and I hate it, and it rests on my mind and I don't like it. I feel like somebody is constantly going poke. I don't want to. I'm not interested in you. Leave me alone. So that is basically how I feel in that scenario. Number 2 scenario is where I see all those signs, and for a variety of different reasons, like in the one where I ended up on a date that I did not know was a date until afterward, and he confessed love to me, which was also... Anyway, it ends up with this scenario where, for multiple different reasons, I dismiss the ideas I have that, oh, this person is keen on me, whether because, oh, they're interested in someone else, so they couldn't be interested in me, they were paying attention to this person, they were going out with this person, they're married, they're this, they're that. So what I'm feeling is happening here, or the things I'm feeling from that other person, the signals, no, it's not correct. I must be wrong because of this reason or that reason. It means that I get to feel like I'm not being objective. So I go too far at trying to be objective and become and just completely overcompensate, so that all the signs that are actually very clear to me, I dismiss under the heading of, no, this could not possibly be happening because of this, and this reason. And then you end up on a date with someone, and then they confess love to you afterward, and then you get really angry for a variety of different reasons. But just to note, I don't get angry at people for being keen on me. That's not a thing. No, there were specific reasons for this person, and that person knows exactly what they are. We'll not get into those. Sorry, this was a rant. The third situation we have is another one in which I tend to overcompensate. If I really like the other person, or I just think that they're a really nice person and would like to get to know them, every single time I will get the idea that, oh, maybe this person actually likes me as well. My brain will be like, no, you just think that because you like them. And so in trying to be objective, again, I overcompensate, and it becomes impossible for me to tell that this person actually likes me. So this is a trope that's near and dear to my heart because it's one that I live and have lived for every single crush I've had or every single unfortunate incident that has happened in my life. So for me, it's very believable. I understand it isn't for some people because there are, different personalities, and I try to, shake it up a little bit. I can't, Isabella, for instance, she was never under any misapprehensions as to her own feelings or indeed the feelings of her party, but that's because she's the personality she is. And I try to keep a few more of those, and I'm trying to keep more of them again, because it's, you don't want to use the same trope too often, but this is a trope that's near and dear to my heart. I love it. You can pry it from my cold, dead hands, and I will go down with this ship, or with this trope in this case. And now that I've talked for nearly 30 minutes, I'm so sorry. That is going to be it. We're definitely going to do a part 3 because I still have action mums or / action pregnant, ancient super being, young humans, whether that's creepy or not, male and female friendship that must turn to romantic love, manhandling equaling romance, piggyback rides, wrist grabs, accidental kisses that somehow aren't bloody, again, yes, and the trope of not like the other girls. So tune in for that next time. I don't know if I will be as fabulously attired, but you never know, I might make the effort again. at the very least, I will have to bring out these eyelashes again at some stage, because although it feels like I am distracted by my own eyes, like the feeling of them, on camera, they're a lot of fun. I can deal with this on camera. I like this. Let me know what you think about the eyelashes. And by the way, this is my earrings. Aren't they gorgeous? They're so heavy. I'm nearly losing an ear every time I wear one. But that's okay, because it's for you guys, and I love you guys so much. Okay, I'm gonna go now. I will see you next time, and thanks for listening. Bye.